Hello and welcome back to Copic in the Craft Room on YouTube. Michelle Houghton here. We are going to be coloring on these images from Stamp AnnieThing again. We did the hair about a month ago, and what we looked at was 4 different ways to do the hair with the exact same colors. Today we're going to be doing the skin. I've got an E50, an E00, an E21, an E11, E04, and an RV32. So it's quite a stack of colors, but I'm going to do it in 2 different ways with the exact same group, going from light to dark and from dark to light. So traditionally I work from light to dark, and I use my lightest color first and I base the skin area. Now, one little trick with Stamp AnnieThing images is her eyes are not closed in, so I do have to watch out for the whites of her eyes and try to avoid those if I can. Now, can I push back on those with a colorless blender? Absolutely, I can do that at the end. But if I can avoid them to start, they always look a little better. So I give it my best shot. A lot of times I still have to do a little cleanup at the end. I'm going to go ahead and do her arms and legs and neck as well. She's not huge, and I think I can work on all these places at the same time. So E50 is the base. E00 is next. For me, this is always the one layer that takes the most time because I'm figuring out where do I want that shading. So I'm going to do kind of a general front lighting situation. So I'm bringing the shading in from both sides, giving her that roundness. And I am going to add a little bit of a nose or shadow from where a nose would be. You certainly don't need to do that on any of these images. For some reason, these just scream for me to have little noses added, but you certainly do not need to. I'm going down the inner portion of her arms and the inner portion of her legs. I kind of add a little bit of a dip underneath both knees, and eventually here you'll be able to see that. I'm sorry, it's off the screen right now. E21 is next. And again, now I'm coming in on all the exact same areas in smaller amounts, so I just don't flick as far. I'm working up a little bit higher on the nib of my marker so I have a little more control, going into those ears, coming up under the eyes, under the chin, getting under her neck, inside the arms, down the inside of her legs, under the knees, both sides. And then I have another color, E11. Now this, I'm not going to put in all those areas. It doesn't go near as far. It's going out around the eyes a little bit. Doesn't come all the way up underneath the chin. Did come down from the center of the forehead. Tiny bit on the arms, tiny bit on the legs. It does not go as far. Now the reason some people do better with light to dark is that I'm adding all this ink on my page. E04 is next. Now this is a big jump. You can see that big jump. What I do know about the E04 is it just melts when I come back and blend it. So I'm not worried about that big jump for now. I can see it and it looks very distinct to start, but I know it's going to blend. Now when I do this, I have to go back through all my markers. So E11 is where I've jumped back to. I'm pulling right at the edges of the E04. So I start on the E04 and pull it out, like as if I was pulling the color along. See where you can see going up underneath her little knees. So E21 is next. Now I'm pulling that E11 a little further. So I start on the E11, pull that out a little further. Her skin is going to get a little darker as I go back and blend. And I know that, so I know kind of how far I can push things and how far I'm going to pull. E00 is next. Again, starting on the E21 and pulling that out further. I've gotten back onto the nose again, pulling those colors out under her chin, kind of from the base of her chin out. And I've almost got all the way out to the edges on the arms and legs. I have that last little strip left. And that's where my E50 comes right into the center of her face, and I can kind of circle and fill that whole area because I don't want to leave any wet watermarks, and on the legs as well. Because I go all the way from my light into my dark and then all the way back, it gives me this nice smooth blending. RV32, I'm adding just a little bit of color on her cheeks at the very end for a little bit of that kind of fun blush. Not even just makeup blush, just a little bit of blush. And then E00 I felt like looked like about where it was ending, so I was smoothing out just those little tiny edges, and a little E50 to smooth even further into the rest of her face. So I feel like that's pretty good. The reason some people like to work from dark to light is the blending happens as you lay down the color. So you may or may not have to go back a second round with all your colors. So E04 is going to be laid down, and it is in your tiniest areas. It's your darkest color. So remember that right as you start, you have to think about, okay, where's the darkest area on the face? I have to be really cautious as I go around those eyes. Where else do I want to hit? On her neck, on her arms and legs. I'll come back and do that. E11 is next, or E11. So I start on the E04 and I pull it further. This is where the blending happens. I won't necessarily have to come back and blend this again because it's happening as I extend that color a little further onto her face. You can kind of see, and I'm just doing a hint of her nose, just that little tiny inside line, because that's all I touch with that E11. E21 is next. I extend a little further. I've just about got that eye closed in. Extend the nose a little further. And I know in my head how many rounds I'm going. I know what all the color layers are going to be. So I know exactly how far I need to extend this next layer. But again, I start on the color before. So I started up on that E11 and pull that color with me. So here comes that E00. I'm pulling it all a little further, connecting some of those edges around her eyes. And there will be some light left over. There should, because remember, there is one more color that still has to come into play, but I'm pulling it as far as I can without just completely filling her in. So then I've got those highlight colors that comes down the bridge of her nose, kind of comes right in around her mouth a little bit, the lightest portion of her face, which is her nose, and the section that comes out a little further, just right in the center. Now I can come back in and add where I need to. I felt like I could still really see a line on her nose, so I came back with my E21 and hit that again. And I can kind of play around. So I'm going ahead and adding my pinks, my RV32, onto her cheeks. Again, that happened kind of near the end after I've got colors blended. That blush, even a natural kind of blush of just either warmth or happiness, can happen on top of blended skin tones. But that's it. I don't really have to do any more because it blended as I was coloring. I might find a couple little spots that I need to go back and touch up on, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy. And this part, I really honestly, I looked back at the other one and was like, ooh, I want to add a little more color here. So I've added a little bit more around that one eye. And come back with my lightest to finish kind of blending that out. So I've got my two. I've got my light to dark, and I've got my dark to light. Make sure to check out all my live classes going on at scrapweaver.com. And thank you, as always, to Stamp AnnieThing for our beautiful stamp that we're working with this week. I hope if you haven't had a chance that you will stop by and like the YouTube channel so you can get this in your inbox each week. And I hope also that you have a happy, colorful week. See you again.